Welcome to our webinar, Mixing Colours for a Forest. In this webinar, I'm going to try and explain why and how I pre-mix my colours. So let's get started. You'll see below me, we've got titanium white, we have cadmium yellow lemon, we've got cadmium yellow deep, we've then got cadmium orange, we've then got cerulean blue, sap green, and raw umber with ivory black just outside the shot. Let's now transform this and go and see where we are going to go. Here we are. So these tube colours, here we go, let's make that so it disappears. Now I'm hoping my voice is going to be okay for this evening stream, so we'll see how it goes. I've got lots of teas and whatever, so let's hope that it's going to retain itself. Now, what I'm going to do first off is I'm going to start to mix the colours of the sky. Now, there's not much sky, as you can see in the photograph, which is to my, where are we? That way. It's very strange doing this. And you see I've started off by adding a bit of white, tiny bit of orange, and a very small amount of blue. Now what I want to do here is just mix a blue-esque colour. I think I've probably gone for a light colour first, as I've put some of that mix to the side. And what I don't want to do is I don't want it to be white. When you paint a cloud white, it just looks so false. So we don't want white. We do want various shades of light, and it needs to have a color in there. It's not just gray. It could be more than not, it's a little bit of warm. It's a bit of orange added to it. So this is why I'm adding orange to the mix. And we'll take our time over this and just get it kind of right. You can see I'm mixing with a palette knife, and this saves your brushes. It's bad enough painting with them and not cleaning them, and mixing them with, using them to mix paint with and not cleaning them. So, you know, you can see here I think I've probably got that almost the way I want it. In which case I'm going to put it into what I call a bank. So the palette is made up of 3 areas, and this is really important. You've got your tube colours at the top, and I follow the colour wheel. Whites, yellows, oranges, reds. I would then go to purples if there was one on here, which there isn't. Blues, greens, browns and blacks. I would never mix a light or a dark colour beside each other, or put a light or dark colour beside each other. And I wouldn't put complementaries like purple and yellow, red and green, orange and blue, because they will kill the hues off. They'll attack each other and they'll neutralize each other. So it's the quickest way of losing your chroma. So I lay the colors out always on the palette in this way. I normally give myself more white than anything else, but we've got a lot of dark colors to mix today. So that's why there's quite a bit of black, raw umber, and sap green. Now, might be an idea, just go through the colours. So we've got titanium white on the far left. We've got cadmium lemon. We've got cadmium yellow deep, which is almost an amber colour. We've then got cadmium orange, cerulean blue, which you see here, sap green, raw umber, and ivory black. Now you see the mix is now getting a bit stronger. I've been a bit gentle, I think, with this mixing process initially. But it's beginning to go there. I'm probably now going for, I'd say, a slightly darker colour, and then I'll make it lighter as we progress. So I'm really probably looking for 3 values here. I'm looking for dark blue, medium-ish blue, and then a light or a cloud color. Everything else I can mix and match when I'm actually painting. There we go. Look, cerulean blue is it's a very funny color. It doesn't mix well. It's essential for skies, but it really doesn't mix well with other colors. It's kind of sulky. Well, you take a color like French ultramarine blue or cyan, and they're really friendly. They mix extremely well with other colors. But cerulean blue, no, it's a bit of a miserable color in many aspects. It doesn't like mixing with other colors. White, yes, goes light, but it's a stubborn old thing, but still, there we go. It's good for skies. Now, we've got a live chat going, so please do chat away. Ask me questions, and I'll do my very best to answer them live. Right, so we've got two values in there. You can see we've got a light, and we've got I'm actually going for the darker blue now. It's good to know what we're doing. So we've got white and cerulean blue going in. Now I might add a little bit of orange to just take the chroma away of the cerulean, just to grey it down a bit. It depends if I want a happy colour. In other words, vibrant blue. Right, I think we're back. Really not sure what happened there, but it would appear we're back. So I'll continue. So you can see now, let's just recap slightly on that. So there we were, mixing the blue, which is cerulean blue, bit of white, and a small amount of cadmium orange, just to take the edge off and to reduce the chroma of the cerulean blue. Right, now with that almost mixed, we'll continue with the next color in a second. So that you can see is a dark blue. It's okay for some of the dark areas. Good, and I've just popped that into the edge. Now I'll clean up this area here. There we go, it's nice and clean. Did as if by magic. And we'll now start on the, I think we're going to start on the path area. Now, the path area, which is the foreground, is really primarily made of three colors. And they are going to be white, cadmium orange, and quite possibly a little bit of raw umber. We'll see how this goes. We've got sap green in there as well. That's probably because of the green. So it's slightly green-esque, I suppose, especially when you put green with cadmium orange, then it goes quite a muted value. But it's not as strong as adding the the black to it, for example, which would completely make it go grey. So here we are. So we got a little bit of white, quite a bit of cadmium orange, considering it's a really strong colour, and a little bit of sap green. And you can see the sap green has really taken the edge off of the orange. And we'll compare that in a second to see if that works. That's me comparing it, so just there. So it looks like we're going to go a little bit lighter on this. And we want to, again, mix, like I said, three colours up. So we want a light, a medium, and a dark for the foreground area. We don't want to get too complicated. At this point, we're going to keep it nice and easy. We get complicated with the painting on the next stage. What we're going to do now is just simplify the blocking in part. But I think it's quite important to pre-mix the colours, especially if you're doing a large painting or a series of paintings. You could be doing 2 or 3 different forests, for example, forest scenes. And it's really nice to have a kind of family of colours. And the only way to do that, really, I feel, is to pre-mix your colours. I sometimes also, I'll put those colours onto a board or a piece of canvas, and I'll make notes as to how I made them. So if I'm going to go to a larger painting at a later stage, I've got not only the colours that I've mixed, but how I've mixed them as well. Now you can see I'm going for that light path area. I think I'm doing it. So let's just check it out. Yeah, I would say it's the lighter path area on there. I pre-recorded this video probably about a week ago, and I should have maybe taken a closer look at it this evening before coming into it, but we'll get there. I think a series of what I've got here is we go from the sky through to the foreground path. I then go into the greens, and I then go into the tree trunk colours, and that's it. And then we've done all the colour mixing. So I've got a little bit of lemon and a bit of light white going in here now. And you can see that's bending the path colour round to the colour you see, which is on the far right bottom section, a kind of sort of a gravelly kind of path. Now, if you keep your eyes wide open, you'll see about 3 or 4 different colours within that path. But if you squint with one eye, it'll blur into a light colour. Here we go. Where we go, we're going to go even lighter still. Okay. So I've now just added white and a bit more yellow to push it over to the yellow side and obviously make it a lot lighter. And this is frequently what I do. I'll get a large dollop, for want of a better word, of colour, and then I'll adjust it lighter or darker as I need to make a series of other colours from it. Again, it's like a relationship colour series or a family of colours, which helps it just helps to unify your painting a bit, as opposed to just popping in tube colours or dramatically different colours because you've got such a wide palette on there. You have different tubes. I know some people start with about 20 tubes of colour. I don't get that, really. It's just confusing. If you need another colour, okay, stick it out. But if you don't, well, why put it in there in the first place? Sorry about my coughing. So now we are going to go into the yellows or the greens. So we're looking at the mixing of these colours of the forest. Now, sorry, when you mix greens, yes, you got sap green, and you can then make it a bluey green by adding a blue. Personally, if that was the case, I'd use a French ultramarine blue on here. But then you've also got the yellow hues. So yellows and blue, yellow and blue makes green, obviously. So if you've got green in the middle, adding yellow is going to shift the hue towards the yellow. Adding the blue is going to shift the hue towards the blue. But did you know you can mix green from yellow and black? Makes a really nice green. And that gives you a starting point. And then you can add sap green or green earth or whatever green you fancy for using to increase the chroma of that green. Or you can add yellow or blue to shift the hue. So here we've got, we wanted to start with a light colour. Well, I did anyway. So we got white, yellow, which will be the lemon. And you can see I'm adding a little bit of the warmer yellow, which is the cadmium yellow deep now, to that, and a bit of sap green. So I'm after a very sort of muted, light yellowy, foresty green. Could be it's just the highlight colour. We'll mix about probably maybe 8 different colours for this forest on the greens. Just makes it so much easier to paint when you do this. This probably took me about an hour, but trust me, saved hours of remixing and messing around later and wondering what colour to use for this, that and the other. It's a much faster way of painting when you're doing something like this. If you remember, we started with I think a charcoal sketch with this, and then the second webinar was Imprimatura, and then we got this third webinar, which is how to mix the colours, and we got the fourth webinar booked in for I think the 4th of April, which is how to apply the first layers, because it's how you paint, a process of painting, which makes painting easy. If you don't have a process, then it's kind of, oh, what do you do? Everything's new again. So there's a light, very sort of pale yellow, muted green, and then we're gonna mix up something a value darker. So again, we got the lemon, we got the cadmium yellow deep yellow going in, we got more sap green, and you can see it's, if you look at it as parts, we've got about probably 1 part of the green, 1 part of cadmium yellow, he says, just adding a bit more into that. And we got maybe 2 parts of the lemon. So it's going to be a light green, and it's going to be a warm light green. But you can see instantly we've got that slightly darker green than the first green we've just mixed and popped up there. Still quite yellow. So we'll see how this pans out. I think I probably added a bit more sap. Yep, there you go. You see the sap really just riches that green up. It just increases the chroma. So whatever level you are for chroma, your choice. You can add grey, which will reduce it still and effectively push that colour back. And when I mean push it back, in distance. So if you're painting something from afar, it's going to be very, very muted colours, mostly greys with a hint of colour, and probably blue-esque, purpley-esque blue. And then as you bring that colour forward, it gets, as it gets nearer to you, it gets higher contrast, higher chroma. It gets warmer as well. So the coolness of the colour goes, it's going to get a little bit warmer. This is why reds bring things forward and blues recede. Bear that in mind when you're painting. It really works as a very strong combo. So now you can see I'm adding a little bit of sap green in stages. I don't go too mad. And I'm producing I wouldn't say a large dollop, but it's enough to get the painting painted, plus a bit, maybe 20% more than I need. Yes, I can remix the colours if I wanted to, but really it's just time consuming. And I think when you're on air, obviously it's nice to have enough colours mixed. You don't have to worry about it. Depends what kind of lesson it is. Is it a lesson in mixing colours on the spot or not? But here we go. So I think this is pretty much all done. I'm just sizing it up to drop it in. And we're going to do, no, we're going to go, ooh, are we? I'm undecided. Let me have a quick think. Looks like I'm adding a little bit more lemon to it. Something was in my head to do that. You can see I will probably add some more lemon out in a second as well, because that lemon's getting quite depleted. So mixing it up. Can you see I'm using the palette knife to mix? A lot of people bounce it up and down, dab, dab, dab. No, don't do that. Just wipe it around little circles. It'll mix a lot quicker. You can see the technique there. Brush goes upside down. Sorry, the palette knife goes upside down, and I scoop it into a dollop. Oh, sorry. And there it is, dumped on the side. Can't believe I've been ill for about 6 months. Hopefully we'll get better soon. Right, so you can see these going in. I've put out some more lemon. And now the object is to go slightly darker. So yes, still a light green. So we start with a lemon, adding a bit of warmth with the cadmium yellow deep, which is more of an amber, but it's still a yellow. The color next door to it, you might think is a red, but it's actually an orange. And you can see now a stronger amount of the sap green. See if I mix those together, see what color we get. Oh, I've gone for a bit of muted brown. Okay. Not much, but just a little bit. When you add brown to a green, think about it. It's an orange. Dark brown is an orange. So when you add orange to a green, there's red in orange, which will remove some of the green, but there's also yellow in orange. So it'll be a hue shift from whatever green it is, it'll go yellowier, if that's a word. Yellow-esque. Jolly good. So a small shift, it does take the chroma down a little bit. Not as much as it would do if you put black in. If you put black in, it's going to go bang, grey. So it's a subtler way of reducing the chroma, taking it darker, making it less green, and pushing it towards the yellow side. I think we're adding a little bit more now. So it looks like it was just a little bit too intense. As you can see there, just a tiny bit of brown just takes the edge off. It makes it more earthy, maybe is a good word. Could be for a forest. I think looks like it's about it. I'm scooping the paint up with a palette knife quite systematically, dolloping it down, and then mixing it up. Good-o. Right. Checking it against a photograph which I've got to the side, which you can't see, it's just out of shot. But it's the same photograph you got on the side of the palette there. And obviously I felt I needed to go a bit more yellow and green in that, so I think I might have put too much yellow in that one. That's why I've gone a bit more green, put a bit more sap in. Mixing colours is a lovely science. I really relax when I mix colours. It's like my happy moment. I don't have to think or worry or do anything other than just see the colour I want. And it's quite creative because some of the paintings I enjoy doing are not true colour. In other words, if I see a forest, I don't paint it the colours that I see. I might want to paint it bright riotous orange, purple. I've done purple forests before; they look really cool. So you know, I'm mindful of mixing the colours I want, not necessarily the colours that I should or need to get a perfect match. More so when I'm painting for my own work, but when I'm teaching, obviously, I'm a bit more less of a extremist on that one. Especially I'm trying to teach an exact, how to mix exact colours, then yeah. But I'm a bit of a rebellious person when it comes to painting my own work. I like to have my own little sense of colour palette. You can see it's just about a value darker than, so I've got a nice string of colours being mixed now for this forest. I'm going to scrape a bit more and edit it. I'm now clean up now. There you go, whoosh. Maybe. No, can add more colour to it. There you go. So the colour that's on there is useful. Bit of lemon, bit of cadmium yellow deep. And that's quite a chunk of those two. I'm going to imagine I'm going to put a fair bit of green in. It'll be interesting to see, because this we need to make darker, so it'll be interesting to see. It's quite a lot of light colours in there. Pardon me. I probably won't go. I'd be surprised if we put too much brown in this, because I want to keep the. I would imagine I want to keep the colour quite high in chroma, but we'll see. It's a little light, so I'm obviously going to go darker in some way. Thinking about that, you can see my brain thinking on the knife. I've cut it. That's interesting. So I've said, yep, it's a lot of color. I have gone a lot of brown. Look at that. So that's to make it go darker. It will mute the color, so I'm going to have to force that with a bit of green in a second. See, it's almost made it an orange, like a burnt orange, which for forest works so well. Don't get me wrong on that one. If you walk through the forest and you see, I'm going to cut that again. Here we go. Look at that. Massive amount of green now goes into that. So what I'm saying to myself here, and I'll say to you now, is that I added too much yellow. The lemon and the cadmium yellow deep, I probably added far too much than I needed. I could have gone 1 part cadmium yellow, 1 part cadmium yellow deep, and maybe 3 parts green to have got the colour that I needed there, and maybe added a bit of brown if I wanted to. And I'd say that's nearer the brown that I was hoping to get. I'd be happy to bank that colour, but I'm going for a bit more brown onto that. Again, the brown's going to darken it, mute it, and shove it across to the yellow slightly. Not a lot, but just slightly. And I've gone for a stronger green now. So I'm counteracting that effect somewhat. Basically, I'm saying I'm going darker, adding the green, adding the brown, making it darker. But I'm keeping the chroma as much as I can in there. I would say that is pretty near to go for the next colour. Testing it against a photograph. That's why the palette knife disappears. And I'm adding a little bit more of that colour which I took out back. Now this means there's a subtle change I'm looking for. I don't want to put a tube colour in there. I want to put a colour which is wrongly mixed, not quite enough of this or that, but enough to make a small change and shift. Also, I don't like wasting pigment, so it's a good way to mix of colours. If you go overboard, cut it in half, separate it out, work on one half, and you can always bring the other half back in if you need it. There we go. You can see this string of colour now. It really is looking nice. I'll probably bring those greens now back in. Maybe, he says. Cool. Sorry. Rough throat. So I'm using the same. I've got more green. Oh, I'm adding a bit of black. How exciting. Now, I get some reactions from students sometimes when I add black to a painting. Oh, ooh, black. Yeah. Da Vinci used black. Rembrandt used black. Lots and lots of artists use black. Alexander Zorn, he used black. And he was a major portrait artist. So there's no reason why you can't use black. What I would say to you is that it's like a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. I would never use black on, or just black on a painting. I wouldn't have just a black background or a black this or a black that. I'd have black-esque. So I'd mix a bit of reds, blues, greens, browns, whatever into the black to make it a black-esque colour. Dark, in other words. And here I've used greens, all sorts of different colours in and added a bit of black to it. So I'm using black to mix the colour with. Now let's just chat about black for a second. Black does many different things. It makes your colour dark, obviously. But not so obvious is it reduces the chroma. Now chroma is saturation, intensity. Now I always like to ask you to imagine, if you would for me a minute, if you had a glass in front of you, a glass jar, and it was full of red. And then we took half the red out and we filled the jar back up with black. So we've got half red, half black. Clearly we're going to have a dark red in the jar. But we've got less red in the jar. There's only 50% red in the jar now, whereas before it was 100%. So it's also less red. It's gone grey. It's reduced its chroma. And the same with white. Same jar, different colour. Let's go blue. So full jar of blue. We take half the blue out. We shove half. We now fill up the jar with white. We've now got a light blue because there's white is going to make things light, but there's now 50% blue less in the jar than it began with. So we got less blue. Therefore, it's reduced its chroma. The saturation of the color has gone. So white and black make things light and dark, but they destroy the chroma. They make a grey. And it's a very, very powerful reaction. So when you're using white, it's fine. When you're using black, it's fine. But be really mindful if you're mixing a colour with white and black in it, you're actually starting with a grey. And once you've lost your chroma, you're never going to get it back. So if you don't want to lose your chroma, if you want the chroma to be very high, then don't use white or black together. Just use one or the other or none. Okay? Right, let's get back into this colour mix. So I've separated it off. I've got two colour. I've got a green there, but it seems a bit light, so I've gone and shoved a load of brown in. I wonder if I'm going to shove a load of black in as well. Seems to be. We have got a dark colour there. That's a dark green, that's for sure. I might be going. See, here I've got foreground colours. For greens. I've got background colours for greens as well. I've got greens which are in the distance. And these distant greens will have a lower chroma than the foreground greens. So I might be, I think I might be mixing some of the, I actually made a mistake. I went for the brown and I picked up the black. And if you picked up on that. So everyone makes a mistake when they're not focused. Here we go. Yeah, that seems to me like it's going to be a low chroma, something or other, low chroma green. That still seems very brown. Adding more browns, interesting. Wonder where we're going to go with this one. I've obviously seen something I've got for it. Now I'm adding a light lemon to that. Surprising. Let's see where we go with this one. Gosh, I'm really sorry if that burnt your ears out. I'm looking forward to a day where I don't cough. Honey and lemon tea. Beginning to turn into a battery, I think. There's lemon and ginger tea inside me. Right, you see there? Okay, we got I'd say it's a muted green. It's a dark green. It's quite muted. It'll be interesting to see where this goes. So we've added the balance of the colours which we didn't use just then and mix that together, and I would say, see where we go. I kind of feel if we're going to go muted, then that's not a bad colour to go with. So muted for the background of the trees. Yeah, I've gone. I've added white now. We'll see how the white has literally taken the chroma away. It's made it lighter, but instantly it's bashed the chroma into touch. Adding the other colour in, so we're going lighter green, muted. Yeah, I'd say we're looking at these background colours now, which is probably difficult to pick up on the photograph when it's that small. But as a project, this will have that photograph as a downloadable asset, and so if you go to print it off A4, still going brown, which is going to reduce the chroma even more, make it slightly yellowish, add a bit of dark to it. There's numerous ways of doing this. once you get your head around colour theory and you're confident with your colours, you just totally relax and you just see the truth in front of you. And all I'm doing right now is I mix these colours. I'm just asking myself, is it too light? Is it too dark? What's the hue? Does it need to go yellow or does it need to go green to increase the chroma? Does it need to go blue-esque? So all I'm concerned about is that green, light, dark value, hue, chroma. That's it. Don't need to worry about anything else. I think I'm nearing the point of ticking that up. So that looks, he says, and it goes into a big mixy, never mind. The palette knife I'm using is really quite an interesting one to look at and getting. It'll be at the end shot. You'll see the number. It's a long pointed, very flexible palette knife. I don't like these small palette knives. They just don't do it for me. They're okay to paint with, to drop a dollop of colour on a canvas. But when it comes to mixing colours, I like to have this type of knife. Very slender, very long, very flexible. And it mixes well, but it doesn't waste a lot of pigment. I can wipe the pigment off quite easily on the palette, as you can see me doing. Almost there this colour. This is taken for some reason or other. Sometimes colours come easy, sometimes they wriggle around a bit. And also you do change. I've changed my mind when I'm mixing colours. I've thought, oh no, that's the better one over there to mix. So, but here we go. That should be about right. I think I should be dolloping that soon. I'm cutting it in half. That's interesting. All right, so I've got a bit of that colour. I'm dopped on there. Clearly what I'm saying is I don't need a large amount of colour. There's only a small amount of that forest is in the distance. And now I would say, where are we going to go with this next one? I've gone lighter. Picked up some white. Not much, because white's a strong colour, it's a strong pigment. When you're painting, try to only use artist quality oil paint. It's I tend to go blue in the face sometimes saying this to over the decades that I've been painting and teaching to students. The temptation is you go and buy student quality paint, whatever brand. Student quality paint is mostly, if not all, chemical. It smells as a result. It's not good for you at all, skin-wise. It paints differently. It mixes differently. So you get two colours and you mix them together. You don't get the same colours you would do if you used artist quality paint. Artist quality paint doesn't smell. It's made up of two things, pigment and oil. That's it. There's no filler, packers or anything in it. No chemical. There you go. Look at the range of colours we got on that just as that was dropped. Just what we need. Now I'm going to start mixing the tree trunk colours. So we're going to start light first. That's why I've gone with a big dollop of white. But coming back to the student quality and artist quality paints, it's better you just have 6 colours, artist quality, than 100 or 60 or whatever student quality brands. But it's easy for me to say this, I know. I mean, student quality brands are very, very cheap. And artist quality brands can obviously be a lot more. You can, I mean, but my thing is I'm using Rembrandt oils. Rembrandt oils are really reasonably priced. You don't have to spend a huge fortune on oil paint. And the 6 colours which I'd recommend you start with when it comes to painting for you absolute newbie students would be titanium white, ivory black. Ivory black is a blue black. and it's very, very useful. Titanium white is opaque, and so is I think ivory black is semi-opaque. So they're good, strong, solid colours to start a painting with. Next one up, I would probably go for, yes, you need a yellow. I'd say yellow ochre light, or I would go for a cadmium yellow deep, which is the colour we got out there, which is the amber looking colour. I would then go, that's 3. I then go for an alizarin crimson or a permanent madder deep, both pretty much same pigment. There's your red. Blue, French ultramarine blue. That's 4 colours. So your yellow, your red, your blue, your white and your black. The other colour I would suggest you go with would be a raw umber. And numerous reasons there. Raw umber and a French ultramarine blue will give you a transparent stain which you can do an underpainting with. And that's your 6. With an extension, I would say your obvious extensions would be a green, an orange, and you know that's a fairly extensive first try palette, which you'll be able to paint huge numbers of different genres with those colours, and it doesn't cost you the earth. Rosemary & Co brushes, I'd also recommend, probably the best brushes you can buy, handmade from Yorkshire. Easiest to come by if you go to my website, which is martincloseartist.com. Go to the shop page and scroll down and you see Rosemary & Co brushes there. Just click on whatever it is we recommend. It takes you straight through to their website. We get an affiliate link with Rosemary, and we get a small 5% commission for recommending her. Doesn't affect your price at all, but it's a good selection of brushes there for you to choose from. Right, we've gone for the now let's get back to this color mixing. So you've seen one of the colors there which is mixed in. It's a light wood color, bark color, and there's probably going to be about not many, maybe 4 or 5 different bark colors which we want to go for. We're going to go from light into the dark. And you can see this will unfold shortly. And again, I'm looking forward to doing the blocking in webinar on this, which will be on the 4th of April, because it'll show you how we use these colours to block that painting in with and to make a good start. When you do the blocking in, you're not trying to paint the painting. I better explain that one, eh? Students, when they start painting, want to put every detail in, including the bunny ears. What you're doing here when you're starting a painting is you're putting in the underpainting. So the painting is simplified. It's like a child's paint by numbers project. Look at number 3, look at the shape, stick number 3 colour in number 3 shape. Don't blend it. Or if you do, just wiggle it a little bit. Don't blend it away. In other words, smooth it out, smooth the edge. If you did that to this painting, simplifying the colour patches from a distance, it'll look amazing. But instead, you focus too much on the detail, too soon, too complicated, and it takes too long to paint. Doing it this way is very fast. I could block this little painting in on a A4 size canvas, probably no more than maybe an hour, hour and a half. And that's taking my time and being conscientious about it. I think I did something similar in a demonstration in class about a couple of weeks back. I think it took 35 minutes. So, it's not a lot of time to do this. You don't have to spend hours on it. So now we're going slightly dark. Notice the orange and the brown. So the brown's orange, the orange is an orange. So we're now going a dark orange. It's now adding some yellow onto it. And that's the lemon. And I would say that's going to mix up a fairly strong colour. But then we'll mute it. We'll take that colour down. We'll reduce the chroma of it. There is a bit of orange in that bark. I'm wondering if it's that which I'm trying for. Now you can see I've added some more brown. That'll be the raw umber. Chunk of raw umber goes on, and that's going to take away the chroma of that, and it's darkening it down. I'm just thinking it's the orange I see within the because these are, I think it's a redwood, that tree. The scene itself, by the way, is Hardy's Cottage in Dorset. It's the path up from the cafe towards Hardy's Cottage itself. Beautiful area of Dorset. If you've not been and you can go, I really strongly recommend you do so. As the months progress into this year and we do more and more of these webinars, there'll be, we've got some scenes from all over the world. We've got Oregon, which I was recently last year over there. We were painting and photographing, get it right, get the word out. Some beautiful scenes up in the wilderness areas of Oregon forests. Yep, so we've gone slightly on. See, I've cut that dollop in half as well. Struggling with this colour a little bit. That's interesting. Normally it's a couple of shots and the colour's in the bag. Again, see how the colour, see how the palette knife works. Now I've taken that out. That's interesting. I'm just exposing those colours to, so you can see the difference. We've got kind of three very interesting values there. I might want to keep that going. Adding a little light now to this colour. It's interesting. That's a lot of, I've probably gone, oh, that's too much white. Yeah, see, I immediately pushed some to one side. So this is the sort of thing, and after mixing the rest of it, I thought, no, it's okay. It's that constant thinking that you're not got your eyes closed, you've got your eyes open, and you're adding a bit of colour, you're adding a bit of this, and you're seeing the reaction, you're seeing the effect. And that's what colour mixing is all about. It's going with the flow of the colour, so that you're making decisions literally on the spot, but you're not blind to it. You're not just idly mixing a light colour. I think this is going to go down any second. He says mixing it back in again, testing the colour out. Adding a bit of dark now to it. Oh dear. Certainly stringing this along. Sorry about the pun, string of colours. There we go. Now dolloping down. You can see the variation within that colour. It's just a value darker. It's not a huge step, but it is a step. I've added more brown, more raw umber. I think I might, it's looking like that could be a bit higher chroma, so I might actually end up adding either a bit of green to it to take it down. Green, raw umber's got red in it. The green will kill that red. Or, wait for it, I might even add a bit of black. Shudder, see which way we go. If you look closely, there's some really dark areas. Yep, I've gone for black. Yeah, there's some really dark areas on the on that fallen tree, and in the shadow areas of some of those other trees. Yep, we should be going down soon. Almost there. We've got not long to go. It's like about 10-15 minutes of the video to go, and then we're should have all the colours mixed up and ready to go. Can you see how by mixing these colours, pre-mixing these colours prior to your painting, you do save a lot of time. And as it's interesting, when you start off, when you become you're an intermediate student, you still, it's a good thing still to do to this. I think even, especially if I'm in a studio, I'm on a really big painting. Some of the paintings I've got around me are 4 and 6 foot wide. I would so make sure I mix my colours. Otherwise, I'm just going to end up with a fragmented, unbalanced, unharmonic painting. And that's not what I want. On a large painting, I would also store the colours. I'll show you maybe that in another video, how I mix and store colours so that I can reuse them when I want them. That's quite an eye-opener, because it's taken a long time for me to come up with this method which I use now. And it's very, very, very different to what I think most people would use. I used to, in the years gone by, buy tubes, empty tubes, and then store the paint in the tubes. But trouble is, after a while, you forget which colours in the tubes, and your label falls off. So you're looking at a colour on the inside, you can't remember how you mixed it 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 years ago. Whereas this way I now do things, it's much easier to remix and know what colours you got inside. Should be coming in down at taking this down. Still adding some yellow and light to it, so I'm looking at it going slightly lighter. Again, mixing it on the edge first, that way I can scoop a bit off if it's too much. And I can add the dark body colour to it if I need to go darker. Decided that's okay, so I've added it all in one dollop. Almost there. And there you can see we've got quite a nice array of browns beginning to form, or trunk colours. Now I've got that main colour which I put to one side, and you see the amount of black I'm adding to it now. So when I say, don't add black, but unless you add it to another colour, it's still very dark. Even though, I mean, okay, this particular camera on the palette isn't as sophisticated as the main cameras I use for doing recordings with, but it's probably struggling a bit to the extremes, whites, lights, and darks. But even without, I mean, it is obviously a very dark colour. And I think, you see, that can be added to the other colours that we've pre-mixed to get colours in between. If you can imagine, where is my hand? Here it is. So you got lightest light, darkest dark, medium, medium light, medium dark, wherever it goes. So by mixing these two colors together, you're going to get a color in the middle. Mixing this color together, you're going to get a color in the middle, and so on. So it's a really good way of, if you've got 5 colors, you've actually got 9, because you've got all the mixings in between, and that's it gives you a really extended range. You don't need to mix every tiny hue, because when you're painting, you don't need to be spending your time thinking, oh, is it this one or that one I've got to stick here or there. So 20% gradients, it's probably good enough, because by mixing those two together, you can get a 10% gradient. You get my meaning? I'd say we're about ready to drop that down. He says, adding the yellow. I see it, cadmium yellow, or lemon, as this is the case, is a really strong pigment. But look how strong that black is. And again, the artist quality paints give you a really high strength color pigment. So you're able to get those higher pigment strengths. Still adding the yellow, gosh. What have I seen here? I probably want to go for two values, and I'm going to go for whatever I'm mixing, and then I'll go for a darker, I would think, maybe. Right, hopefully we've joined back in around about the same place. That's the darker color going in now. And that's it. So what I'm doing now is just cleaning the palette up, and I'll show you how I do this. So that's all of our colors mixed. Popping the tube colors down initially, and I'm wiping the palette knife as I do this. And I've cleaned off the top area, and now I'm popping those colors back in. And again, I'll be wiping. It's like I had a slight bit of something on the palette knife then. The colors as I put those back in at the top. Looks like we've lost me on this photo, as I say. Quite sure why. Been plagued by a few technical issues on this stream again, so a bit sorry about that. But you can see how I'm now scooping the colors up and popping them onto the palette, ready to paint. Again, wiping the palette knife as I scoop each color up. And the colors are going to be in sequence. So these are all the greens of the forests. Underneath is the tree trunk colors. And again, you see the tube colors right at the top, and they will remain there, because if I need a variation, I can easily dip into the colors at that point. So if I want to make a green a bit more stronger green, I can do by popping in the sap. And you can see now the variation in the greens. We've gone from high chroma greens all the way across to the more muted colors. Good. And we're pretty much done. there's the palette knife. It's a 3021 from Van Gogh. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. And sorry about the technical issues we've had on that webinar, this stream. So that's in essence how I'd mix or pre-mix the colours for a forest scene. And I'll look forward to joining you again on the 4th of April, where we'll do the actual blocking in stage. For now, have a lovely evening. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you again soon. All the best. Good night.